According to my records, this fence is in violation. It must be moved immediately.
I disagree. My deed confirms the property line is exactly where the fence stands.
The first thing I saw was a fresh line of orange spray paint cutting across my driveway like a warning label, and the second thing I felt was the cold air biting my ears at 6:12 a.m. when my headlights caught a stack of metal fence panels blocking the corner of the Cul De Sac. The smell of wet asphalt and burnt coffee from my travel mug mixed together while a contractor in a neon vest pretended not to see me. Then Karen, yes, that Karen, stood there with a clipboard like she owned the sunrise. She tapped the fence with her pen and said, super calm, super smug, "This is HOA property now. You can't park past the line." I looked at the line again. They had fenced off 6 feet of my driveway. 6 feet. Like my car was supposed to levitate. My tires crunched gravel as I backed up, and the flashing amber light from their truck bounced off my garage door like I was the criminal. By 7:03 a.m., I was in my kitchen staring at that fence through the window, watching the morning sun hit the metal like it was laughing at me. I kept replaying her words, HOA property now, and my brain kept answering back, since when? That's when I realized this whole mess had a name, a headline, a battle I didn't ask for. HOA fenced off 6 feet of my driveway at the Cul De Sac corner, then I filed the deed. That's what it felt like. Like someone took a slice of my life while I was asleep and called it a landscaping improvement. Karen's official title was Architectural Committee Chair, which sounded fancy until you remembered she once sent a warning letter because my trash can lid was too expressive. Now she was going after my driveway like it was a personal hobby. I stepped outside, the air sharp and damp, and put my hand on the fence. It was bolted into the ground. Not temporary. Not a mistake. A decision. I tried to be normal about it. I really did. At 9 a.m., I walked to the clubhouse with my nicest voice and my calmest face. The lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and old carpet, and the boardroom door was already cracked like they were hiding. I asked to speak with someone. The manager wouldn't meet my eyes. She whispered, "You need to email the board." I said, "I did. 3 times. She shrugged like my driveway was a weather problem. I caught 2 neighbors in the parking lot. One of them looked over his shoulder before speaking, like Karen might pop out of a bush. He said, "Man, don't poke the bear. She's been filing complaints on everyone." Then he hurried away. I sat through the open meeting that night, and Karen acted like I was invisible. When I finally spoke, she smiled and said, "Your concern is noted." Next item. The whole room went quiet. People stared at their shoes. It was like the HOA had trained them to stay scared. That was my line in the sand. Not the fence. The silence. The way they tried to make me feel small in my own neighborhood. I went home angry, but I promised myself one thing: I was going to stay lawful and clean. No threats. No drama in the streets. Just paperwork, proof, and proper channels. At 10:18 p.m., I opened my laptop and started digging. I pulled every email I'd sent. I saved screenshots of the HOA portal messages. I checked my phone logs. I even drove to the fence with a tape measure and filmed it, slow and steady, showing the painted line and the bolts in the ground. Then I made my favorite kind of petty, organized petty. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. It felt like armor. I wrote down exact times too, because I'd learned something about people like Karen: they love vague accusations, but they hate exact facts. 2 days later, May 3, 2024, I went to the county records office like I was going to confession. The place smelled like paper and toner, and the clerk didn't care about my neighborhood drama, which was honestly refreshing. I asked for plats, easements, and any recorded HOA boundary changes. The clerk raised an eyebrow and said, "That's a lot." I said, "I've got time." I filled out the request form and paid the fee, and when the file landed with 63 pages, it made a satisfying thump on the counter. I sat at a plastic table and flipped through maps like I was cracking a mystery. Then I saw it. Clear as day. My property line didn't stop where Karen's orange paint stopped. It went past it. Those 6 feet were mine. Not sort of mine. Not shared use mine. Mine. I highlighted the boundary. I printed the deed. I printed the survey from my purchase. Then I wrote my own neat little list in the front of the binder. Timeline item 1 April 5th at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. Because yes, that happened too. An officer had knocked on my door before sunrise saying the HOA reported someone parked illegally on common property. My car was on my driveway. My driveway. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted, and I wrote that down in plain words so nobody could pretend they didn't understand. Here's where the twist hit. I didn't storm into the next meeting screaming. I didn't post online first. I did something even worse for Karen. I invited witnesses. I emailed the board and requested a formal hearing, and I copied the property manager, the HOA attorney, and the city code enforcement office. I also requested the work order and contractor authorization for the fence installation. That part was the trap, because if they had permission, they'd show it. If they didn't, they'd panic. On May 10, 2024, at 6:40 p.m., the hearing started, and the room was packed like it was movie night. People came just to observe, which is neighbor code for I want to see Karen get humbled. Karen sat at the front with her clipboard, smiling like she had already won. I slid my binder onto the table. I didn't even open it at first. I just said, before we talk feelings, let's talk lines. Then I handed over the deed and the county plat, highlighted, with the page numbers. The HOA attorney's smile vanished so fast it was almost funny. Karen blinked hard and said, "That can't be right." I said, "It's recorded. It's not a vibe. It's paper." The room made this little noise, half gasp, half laugh, like a crowd at a magic trick. Someone in the back whispered, "Oh my God, she fenced his property." A guy actually started filming, and once one phone came out, more followed. Karen tried to recover. She said the fence was for safety because the corner was a hazard. I nodded and said, "Cool. Then why did you call the police at 4:27 a.m. and report me trespassing on my own driveway?" That's when the board president started sweating. The property manager shuffled papers. The attorney asked for a recess, which is fancy talk for we are in trouble. Code enforcement showed up the next morning, because I'd already sent them the evidence, and they didn't like unpermitted structures. The inspector walked the fence line, looked at the bolts, looked at the survey, and wrote a notice right there. Then the HOA tried to quietly remove the fence at 7:15 a.m., but neighbors were already outside with coffee, watching like it was a parade. Somebody yelled, "Hey Karen, measure twice." Laughter rolled down the Cul De Sac. Karen stood on her porch, red-faced, pretending she wasn't home, while the contractor unbolted every panel like he was erasing her ego. The authority flip was the sweetest part, because it wasn't me winning. It was reality winning. The city required the HOA to file for permits, pay a fine, and restore the property exactly as it was. The board held an emergency meeting, and suddenly everyone found their courage. Neighbors started talking about their own complaint letters, their own weird fines, their own scare tactics. One couple said they'd gotten 5 warnings in 1 month for unauthorized holiday decor, and they didn't even decorate. The board attorney reminded them, very calmly, that false reports and harassment patterns could become a legal problem. Karen stopped speaking like she owned the room. She started speaking like she was trying not to cry. Within 2 weeks, she resigned from the committee for personal reasons, which is HOA language for I got caught. The board sent me a written apology and reimbursed my legal and records fees every dime, down to the printing costs. On June 1, 2024, the fence was gone, the painted line was pressure washed away, and my driveway looked normal again. That night, one of the scared neighbors left a small note on my doorstep that just said, "Thank you for standing up." I stuck it on my fridge like a trophy, because it reminded me this was never just about 6 feet. It was about finally making the bullies follow the same rules they love to scream at everyone else. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.